In this lesson, we'll finish drawing our face detail curves for the walkie-talkie. Now at this point I could mirror this all over, but I still have some work to do here, and again I do want it to be symmetrical on this side. So I'm just going to come in, I'm going to draw my button shapes first, and I'll just sort of eyeball that shape. A little off center, so I'm going to select it, hold down Alt, and use my arrow key just to nudge that up a little bit. And I want to use this exact same size circle for this button here. So I'll just drag this up into position, and I'm going to tap the Alt key. And notice as soon as I tap the Alt key, I get a plus sign that tells me it's going to make a copy. And then I can release that. I'll use these two curves and create an offset from them to get this shape on the outside. So let me select the first one. I'll go to Curves, select Offset Curves. Now if I'm not sure of the distance I want here, I can plug in different numbers and see my result. That's a 0.5, but I'm not quite sure exactly what that's going to look like. So let me show you a nice little trick here. If you click on Through Point, what that'll let you do is actually snap to different things. Or if there's nothing there, you can just drag this curve until you get the exact offset you want, and you can see it visually. It's kind of a nice way to approach this, I think. So I'm going to stay just to the inside of the sketch line I drew. I don't want too big of an offset, and the reason for that is we're going to get a little too pinched in here if I have too large of an offset. So let's see if this works. Now if I apply the offset command again, this time it knows how far I did that offset for this piece. So now I can just drag my cursor to the outside to tell it to offset in the outside direction, and it's going to be offset exactly the same as the last curve that I offset. So now I have those. Let me select all of this, and we're going to make some different trims here. And actually, I'm going to deselect the buttons. I don't want to use those at all for the trims. So to do that, I can hold down Control and just click on the two inner button shapes. And then I'll come over here to Trim, trim that away, trim the outside away, trim that, and trim that. And I'm just clicking on those, and you can see it takes care of all of that for me. When everything's trimmed the way I want it, I'll just middle mouse click and press Join. So now those are all joined together. So let's add a fillet in here for now. So I'll come over to my fillet and I'll right click, and let's try a fillet of 1 and see what that gives us. Don't really like how that looks, so I'm going to approach this a little bit differently. So I'll go over to my arc commands, hold this down, and I'll select this, and this is the Tangent to Curves arc. Now you may or may not have to hold down your Alt key temporarily to disable your snaps. So I'll click once so that it's going to be tangent to this line, and then click again to be tangent to this line. And once I click, I can move that cursor around. Again, you may or may not need to hold down your Alt key, and when you get a good point, click again. And if I drag in, it's going to draw an arc in this direction. If I drag out, it'll give me an arc in that direction, which is what I want. I'll press spacebar and apply that again down here. I select all of those curves, and I'll click on Trim, and I'll just trim that out and join together. Now I'm not going to apply this one just yet. I'm going to use this as is for cutting, and then we'll put in as large a fillet as we can once we're all done, because that is getting a little tight in there, so we'll clean that up as a solid. So now I can take this and my two curves, and we'll go to Transform, Mirror. Make sure I get an end snap there, hold down my Shift key, and drag over. I'll select those two pieces, join them together, so middle mouse click again. And I'm going to make a design change on this part here. I have this rectangular LCD, and I don't think it really fits quite as nicely as it could. So we're going to make a conical rounded rectangle, or a squircle. So I'm going to choose this icon here. I'm going to turn back on my center snap, and I want to click on first corner of rectangle. I actually want to draw from the center instead. So I'll click on center, and now my command line is asking me to choose center of rectangle. So again, I have my center snap switch back on now. Now I can snap to the center of one of these circles. So now I know my squircle is going to be drawn exactly the mathematical center of the curve that it's within. I'll drag until I get about the right size. I'll click. Now notice at the moment when I draw this, I'm just getting a rounded rectangle. Look at my command line, it's saying corner equals arc. And I don't want that, I want the other option. So I'll click on that. That's going to switch that to corner equals conic. And now watch what happens when I drag. So now I get not just a rounded rectangle, I'm getting a conical rectangle. So if I drag in here, it gets rounder and rounder. It becomes almost diamond shape. But I can kind of adjust this and make a very, very soft kind of a rectangle. And I think that's going to fit in a little bit better with this overall shape. And then we have one more circle to draw here for now. And I'll just get a snap off of my quad there. Click for the center of that circle and drag up. Again, notice we're a little off center left or right, and that's fine. We're using this pure center line, so everything will still line up and be good for us. And then the speaker grills we will actually be handling in a different lesson, so I'm not going to put anything for those at the moment. So that completes all of the curves that we need to draw to create our interface.